While everyone's watching the news, smart people are quietly making moves with their money. Let that sit for a second, because right now, millions of Americans are glued to their screens, doom scrolling, getting angrier and more anxious by the hour. And I get it. What's happening is serious, but anxiety doesn't build wealth, strategy does. So today, we're going to do both, understand what's actually going on, and then talk about what you should be doing with your money right now. Let's get into it. Here's the situation as it stands. The United States and Iran are in active military conflict, and the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical shipping choke points on the planet, is either fully or partially blocked. Now, if you don't know what the Strait of Hormuz is, here's why it matters to you personally. Approximately 20% of global oil supply passes through that narrow stretch of water every single day. Tankers carrying crude oil from Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the UAE, Kuwait, all of them funnel through that corridor. When it's disrupted, the entire world feels it within days, and we're already feeling it. Oil is sitting at $114 a barrel right now. That's not a number we've seen regularly since the energy crisis years. And at the pump, the national average for regular unleaded is $4.14 a gallon. That's up roughly 39% since this conflict escalated. If you filled up your tank recently, you already know. You felt it before you ever read a headline. And now, on top of all of that, there's a diplomatic deadline reportedly set for 8 p.m. tonight that could either de-escalate this situation or push it further. So we're in a moment of genuine uncertainty. And in moments like this, most people make emotional decisions with their money. That's exactly what we're not going to do. Let's talk about how this is actually hitting your wallet beyond the gas pump. The first and most obvious impact is fuel costs. If you commute, you're already absorbing this. If you drive for work, delivery, rideshare, sales, trades, this is cutting directly into your income. The average American drives roughly approximately 15,000 miles per year. So even $1 per gallon increase adds up to hundreds of dollars per year out of your pocket. But here's what people miss. Oil isn't just about gas. Oil is embedded in almost everything. Plastics, packaging, fertilizers, shipping logistics. When oil spikes, the cost of producing and transporting goods goes up across the board. That means your groceries get more expensive, your Amazon deliveries cost more to ship, the restaurant down the street is paying more for produce and passes it to you in higher prices. This is what's called a supply-side inflationary shock. And the frustrating part is that raising interest rates, the Fed's usual tool, doesn't solve it. You can't raise rates to make oil cheaper. Then there's the stock market. You've probably already seen red in your portfolio this week. Energy sector stocks are surging, but airlines, shipping companies, consumer discretionary names, they're taking hits. Volatility is spiking, and when people see their 401k down a few percent, the instinct is to pull out. I'm going to tell you right now, that instinct is almost always wrong, and we'll get to why in a moment. The honest reality is, this isn't going to resolve itself in a week. Geopolitical conflicts of this scale take time. Even if there's a ceasefire tonight, markets will remain cautious, oil supply chains don't normalize overnight, and the inflationary pressure that's already been injected into the system takes months to work its way out. So we need to be thinking in terms of months, not days. This is not financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. But here's what I would be thinking about right now and what I'm actually doing. First, your emergency fund. If you don't have 3 to 6 months of expenses sitting in a high-yield savings account right now, this is your wake-up call. Not a punishment, a wake-up call. Economic shocks like this have a way of compressing timelines. Companies get nervous, layoffs happen, contracts get paused. You want a buffer between you and crisis. If your emergency fund is thin, pause any non-essential investing temporarily and get that buffer in place. Peace of mind has real financial value. Second, cut your fuel spending where you can, starting this week. This sounds basic, but it has real impact. Consolidate your errands into single trips. If you have a more fuel-efficient vehicle available, use it. Gas Buddy and similar apps will show you the cheapest stations in your area. Sometimes there's a 20-cent difference between stations a mile apart. If your employer allows any remote work flexibility, now is a great time to ask. And if you drive a lot, look at whether a fuel rewards card makes sense for your situation. Third, let's talk about the energy sector itself. Here's the thing. When oil spikes, energy companies make more money. Their revenues go up, and there are ETFs that let you participate in that upside without picking individual stocks. The XLE, the Energy Select Sector SPDR fund, is one of the most widely used. It holds the major U.S. energy companies, ExxonMobil, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, and others. When oil prices rise, historically XLE tends to follow. Now I want to be clear. Energy sector investments are volatile, and if oil prices fall sharply after a diplomatic resolution, they can drop just as fast. This is not a long-term hold strategy for everyone, but for someone looking to potentially offset rising energy costs in their daily life with exposure to energy sector gains, it's worth researching. Fourth, inflation hedges. If you believe, as many economists do, that this conflict prolongs elevated inflation, then assets that historically hold value during inflationary periods deserve a look. I-bonds, issued by the U.S. Treasury, are one option. They're currently paying a rate tied to CPI inflation, and they're backed by the federal government. The catch is, there's a $10,000 annual purchase limit per person, and you can't touch the money for at least a year. But for money you won't need immediately, it's a low-risk inflation buffer. Gold is another traditional hedge, and it's worth watching its price action during this conflict. Physical gold, gold ETFs like GLD, or gold mining stocks are all different ways to access it, each with different risk profiles. And fifth, this might be the most important one, do not panic sell your index funds. I cannot stress this enough. If you have money in a broad market index fund, an S&P 500 fund, a total market fund, and you're watching it dip, the worst thing you can do is lock in those losses by selling. You haven't lost money until you sell. Markets have survived every war in modern history, every oil crisis, every financial collapse. The S&P 500 has always recovered and gone on to new highs. The people who got hurt weren't the ones who stayed invested. They were the ones who sold in fear and missed the recovery. Stay the course. Let me zoom out for a second, because I think context matters here. Wars are horrific. Human suffering is real, and it matters. I'm not minimizing that. But from a purely financial and historical perspective, conflicts end. Diplomacy works, or military outcomes force resolution, or economic pressure brings parties to the table. And when they end, markets don't just recover. They often surge because all the suppressed economic activity that was on pause comes rushing back. The people who build generational wealth are not the ones with the best timing. They're the ones who stay calm when everyone else is panicking. They're the ones who see a volatile week not as a disaster, but as a potential opportunity to buy solid assets at a discount. They keep their emergency fund intact, they don't make emotional decisions, and they stay invested in the long game. You don't have to be a genius to do this. You just have to be disciplined when it's hard. That's what I've got for you today. If this gave you something useful, a new framework, a specific thing to go research, a reason not to panic, hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need to hear it. Subscribe if you're not already. I cover exactly this kind of thing. Real financial moves for real people navigating a complicated world. And drop a comment below. What are you actually doing with your money right now? Are you holding steady, moving into cash, looking at energy plays? Let's talk about it. I read every comment. Stay smart, stay calm. I'll see you in the next one.